Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Itchy Mysteries. John Lorden here, back in the screening room with another film you might want to check out. Or do you? Well, let's talk about it. Today I'm looking into a BBC Three production, which I think was made primarily for the internet, called Unsolved, The Boy Who Disappeared. Let me read you the description from IMDB about this piece really quick. Journalists Alice Hart and Brona Monroe launched their own serial forensic investigation into the real-life disappearance of 16-year-old Damien Nettles, who went missing on the Isle of Wight in 1996. Now, they mentioned serial there, and on the Wikipedia page about this, they also tried to compare it to the Serial podcast as well as Making a Murderer. And I don't think those comparisons really serve this justice. This piece kind of stands alone from those for me personally. In terms of it being compared to Making a Murderer, it's just, there's not as much information that is being discovered or uncovered, and it's not really leaving you with any gross injustice or any feeling. I mean, there is certainly an injustice in the case of Damien Nettles, the fact that he's been missing. He is still missing. It is over 20 years now. There's certainly some injustice in that. But Making a Murderer was about a whole different level of injustice. It was just so different in so many ways. I don't really see this lining up with that. And you're talking about Making a Murderer was, how many parts? I think 7 or 8 parts. Isn't it like almost, or maybe even 10? Isn't it close to somewhere between 8 and 10 hours long? And here you're talking about, there's 8 parts, but they're only 15 minutes each. So basically you get 2 hours of content here. And I have to say, even for those 2 hours, it's pretty light in some places. There was a couple of the episodes in particular where I was kind of like, well, it's like, do they really need to be going into this information? Sometimes it feels like the info's coming at you at a bit of a trickle, and then all of a sudden you hit the next episode and they take some pretty big steps and you're getting, more than just a trickle of info. But in particular, I found the first half, the first 4 episodes, kind of going at a bit of a slower pace than I would have liked. I think the second 4 episodes are a bit better. And, in terms of covering the case, they certainly let you understand, or they help you understand the basics of the Damien Nettles case. You are introduced to his mother, who for me personally is kind of the hero in this piece for me. Just seeing her resilience and seeing how she's been dealing with this for 20 years and she's still willing to put herself into very awkward situations, speaking to people, to try to get just another piece of truth around what happened to her son. It was extremely brave, and I think that was probably the highlight for me in watching this piece. The 2 journalists, Alice Hart and Brona Monroe, they are likable, almost to the point where I wish if they were going to do this kind of slower format that they might have introduced more personal elements of their story into it. They're giving you a very much a journalist's perspective. There's only really one point where you see Brona kind of lose her cool and you get a bit of better emotional understanding about her as a person. But other than that, they're giving you this sheen of journalism, which for me in particular, I mean, you guys know what I do here on this channel. It's not quite that interesting. I think that the audience gets a little more interested when you're sharing personal aspects of yourself and how they line up with the story, and that really doesn't happen anywhere in this piece. So just another thing that really is differentiating it from what it's being compared to. What I do feel like really works in this piece, first of all, is the cinematography is great. The Isle of Wight looks like there's a lot of beautiful scenery out there. It's kind of a dark way to review that, but there is some very pretty shots. The music was appropriate. I don't think it was really trying to, make drama where there wasn't any. It was very appropriately used. But the thing that really struck me here is you have basically Damien's mother, a woman that is still in need of help and support from a community. And you have Alice and Brona, two other women that are coming to try to support her. And there's a very good dose, just for me personally, of kind of girl power going on in this piece. And not the type of girl power that I'm not talking like the Spice Girls or something like that. I'm talking about a very real world women supporting other women, empathizing with them, trying to help them through very tough times. And it's weird because I don't think the piece was really trying to do that or focus on that necessarily. But for me, I did note quite a few moments throughout the piece where it's like, this is kind of amazing to me how these women are supporting each other. And I almost wish that maybe the editor or the director was a little more aware of that and could have pulled that out to the forefront just a little more. But as it stands right now, I think it's still a great example of that. The journalists, some of the things that they do in terms of their investigation are a little, I would almost say, light-handed. They don't quite dive into it. One comparison I do think is fair is comparing it to the killing season, where you have two investigators that are doing some really gutsy things. I mean, I think if you guys saw my review, I even talked about they're doing stuff that I'm not even sure if I'd be able to do if I was in their shoes. In Unsolved, The Boy Who Disappeared, the journalists never get close to that. The stuff they're doing is all pretty well contained. Not that it's necessarily safe. I mean, they're talking to people that some of us might think are an unsavory element and we might not want to associate with. They certainly put themselves in some awkward situations. But even when they do that, are they really driving towards discovering unknown truths? It doesn't feel like it, with the exception of two moments. And I'm going to try to tell you about these moments without blowing it for you. In episode 3, there is a moment where a friend of Damien's is speaking to Damien's brother. And for any of you out there that think that you can be a human lie detector based on watching people's expressions and how they respond to things, I think you are going to love the 3rd episode. There is just a moment in particular where this friend's expression and how he's responding to the questioning really made me think twice about, does this guy actually know more than he's letting on? And why does he look so terrified? We'll see if you guys think the same if you decide to check it out. The second moment is the one where I was saying that it seems like Brona kind of loses her cool. She gets close to, she's actually trying to interview someone, and it's towards the end. It might be in episode 7 or 8. And it's difficult for me to watch because I'm sitting there with 5 other questions I'd be asking this guy, and she's just trying to ask him like the same 2 questions over and over and over, even though he's not answering them or not giving her the answer that she wants to hear. But in a different sense, like I mentioned, it's cool to see her as a person and the fact that she was, first of all, frustrated by how that interview was going. Second of all, it kind of gave me some insight into what she was thinking, in terms of at least this guy's knowledge that he must know more than he's letting on. And she seemed pretty angry about that. So while it seemed like a failure in terms of the interview and the way she was trying to conduct it, I think for this overall piece, it added some much needed emotion, specifically from the part of the journalists, and some more insight into who they are as people and what motivates them to do all this, which it just seemed to be missing a little bit from this piece. Really could have added a lot if we had some much more personal connection with the journalists as they were investigating this. But outside of all that, I haven't looked into this case. It has been suggested a long time ago, and I think by several people, as a potential Searchlight episode. I haven't looked into it myself, so I don't know if the information that they're presenting is all that rare. There is one review for it on IMDb. That person is saying that this is all known information, that basically there's very little value in watching this if you know about the case because they're just retreading the same thing. I didn't know about the case, so from that perspective, I could at least enjoy that, even though in some episodes it seems like it's a trickle of information. By the time I got to the end, I felt like I was pretty well versed in terms of where he disappeared, the people that were around him when he disappeared, the possible suspects in the case. It worked kind of on that level for me. So, should you guys watch it or not? I think you should be cautious of the tempo. It feels very slow in some paces. I'm pretty sure that if I watched it again, I could almost recommend episodes that you could skip. There's also this weird thing where some of the episodes start and they'll kind of do a little mini recap of what was in the episode before it. I don't know why they did that, because from what I can see, they released all these episodes at once. I think most people, because they're only 15-minute episodes, they're going to binge this. They'll watch it maybe in one sitting or maybe break it up among 2 or 4 sittings or something like that. But I don't think those little recaps are needed, and they just add to the length of this overall piece. You know, if you're looking, I think if you can appreciate the girl power aspect that I was kind of mentioning, just seeing women that are helping each other and that care about each other, I think there's certainly something to it in there, but that's a bit of a subtone. It's kind of under the main layer of story that's going on here. I don't know, guys. I'm really kind of torn. I don't know if many of you out there will enjoy this as much as I did, because I think because of what I do, I'm a little more geared to absorbing information in this way. You know, there's a lot of times I'm researching and I'm looking through a ton of information to try to drill it down for you guys into something that I think is concise and has a lot of info. So I'm kind of on the fence. IMDb is rating it a 6.5 out of 10. I think I'm probably right around there. I might have given it even a 6, just a hair below. I've already gone into the reasons with you. Lack of connectivity with the journalists is the main one. And it's weird because if they would have opened that up, that could have added so many other deep layers to this piece overall. But I think that they were trying to do something very specific. I think they were trying to make this like the Serial podcast or like Making a Murderer, or at least what they appreciate of those pieces. And I don't know if they quite hit it. It feels a little clinical in places in terms of their approach to the case. But for what it is, it's free, it's online, it's on YouTube. I'm going to have links for a playlist of all the episodes right down below. It is official, that is posted by BBC Three, so you're not conducting piracy or doing anything weird by viewing it there. I do think that if you have some time, maybe you want to crack into the first episode, see if it hooks your attention, go into the second. If you get to the 3rd or the 4th episode and you feel like it's really slowing down and beginning to drag, I would really recommend you don't bail on it at that point. If you're that far in, push to the end, and I'm telling you, episodes like 6, 7, and 8 in particular, there's a pretty good amount of information and some investigation that's going on that you'll probably appreciate. So that's it, 6 out of 10. Probably work for some of you out there. It's tough. I wish I had better conditions to tell you guys about, but I think I've done my best with it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little bit here in the screening room. I will see you right back here on the Lord and Arch channel tomorrow with another brain scratch. Take care, everyone.